Hello everyone, this is your friend, your boy, Jeb Black the one and only, and as always, these comic book discussions are spoiler filled. I would truly appreciate if you don't want to have anything spoiled for you when it comes to X-Men Blue issue number 27, that you read the comic first. If you're watching this live, like right now, then the comic is not currently in the description box of this video, like the link to it. Yo Kirby, welcome to the stream, it's good to have you. But if you would like to read this comic before I go into details, because like I said, this will be spoiler filled, and thank you Kirby for smashing that like button. If you would like to read this comic first, it is available on readcomiconline.to, so you will be able to read this comic for free right now if you want to, and then come back to this video if you want to read it for yourself and then get all the spoilers and the juicy bits. Also, I will not be reviewing the comic, so I don't like talk about everything that happens in the book and try to get you up to pace. This is not like a recap or anything. These are just my thoughts. I give my pros, my cons, and my notes that I'll have written down on the screen to the side of me. I have my apple juice here because I know I'll probably be here for a good minute talking about this. This is probably going to be like a 30-minute affair. But like I said, spoilers ahead, so definitely be prepared. I'm going to have some non-copyrighted lo-fi in the background. Occasionally it may turn into an ad. When that happens, I may mute it. So you may not hear any music for a little bit and then suddenly hear music. So just keep that in mind as well. And I'll be occasionally pouring cups of apple juice. But yeah, let's get this started. So I always start with pros, then move to cons, then move to notes. So pros for X-Men Blue, number 27. Number 1, the art when Magneto is battling the mind-controlled mutants just pops off. It's the image that I used for the thumbnail of this video. It's like he's shooting a Kamehameha. In the scene where that happens, he's like trying to face off against one of the mutants that's responsible for like the Mothervine virus. The Mothervine virus is this virus that was engineered using the mutants from the Ultimate Universe, the Marvel Ultimate Universe, and using this Mothervine virus, they're turning normal people into mutants, but they're like brainwashed mutants that are controlled by this like cabal of evil mutants who essentially are trying to bring about a new world order where mutants are on top. And they're like, the best way to do that would be to turn all the people into mutants. But what some of them didn't know, especially Emma Frost, is that the plan wasn't just to turn everybody into mutants, but to turn everyone essentially into mutant slaves, which Emma Frost, who's a member of this evil cabal, isn't down with. And everyone's like, Emma, why aren't you down with it? Like, one of your powers is like being able to like manipulate and control people's minds. If anyway, like if anyone should be down for it, it should be you. But she's not vibing for it at all, because she was just thinking if everyone was a mutant, then how could everyone be a bigot toward themselves and all their friends and all their family kind of thing. Kirby says his Broly deck is now 50 cards. Congratulations, Kirby. 50 without your leader, or 50 with your leader. Let's see. Had to get a quick swig of some apple juice. But Magneto was just trying to face off against one of the evil mutants responsible, rather than going against the mutants who he knows wouldn't actually attack him, like if they had the choice. Because Magneto was gathering all these people who suddenly gained these like mutant abilities and trying to like help them, because a lot of people when their powers first activate, they kind of while out. They don't know how to control it. It may hurt them. They may need to be hospitalized for a little bit. So he was like trying to care for them medically when all of them suddenly get brainwashed and turn on him. So while he's trying to focus on the one who's like not brainwashed and like not responsible for all this, the brainwashed ones like keep ganging up on him. And the mutant that he's trying to fight is like another magnetism based mutant. And she's like, we should have met a long time ago, Magneto, because I've always heard that we were like on a similar playing field when it comes to magnetism. And Magneto quickly is like, say what, bitch? And just like, phew, like just like knocks her away. He's like, you have no idea who you're like actually fighting here. Like if you think you're anywhere near my level, you're just wrong. But then he starts getting ganged up on by like the mutants that he tried to help, the ones that are brainwashed by the Mothervine virus. And when they're ganging up on him, Magneto, it's not that he can't handle them, it's that he's just not fighting back. He's like, I want to help them, but I know that like they're not in their right mind and I can't possibly like help them without hurting them. And then the woman he was fighting says, while I would want to take you down myself, as if she was like a big bad, like she could even handle Magneto. She's like, while I would like to take you down myself, I have orders from up high, referring to like the evil cabal of mutants. And she's like, and my orders are, have the mutants he tried to help kill him instead. Now keep in mind, Magneto has been like a heroic character in X-Men Blue, at least for the issues I've read. He's like the current Professor Xavier style figure for this X-Men team. So they see him as like someone who helps keep them all together, and he's like here for the betterment of mutants. So Magneto is like a good guy, and he's fighting for the good guys. So to see him getting beat down by the very mutants that just moments ago he was trying to help, and then seeing him go, curse you for making me do the one thing that I just don't want to do. And he stands up, and you see this scene, the scene that's like in the thumbnail, where he does this massive blast from his hand, and he just kills all those mutants with like one shot. It's crazy. He one shots a whole room of mutants. And then he gets up, she chases after him, but he like stumbles away, and he like time travels. And I'm like, what? He has like a time platform that he like activates, and then after he's activated the platform, he just is like, bye, and like pieces out. And that threw me for a hard loop. Because I'm like, oh, I hope the story isn't going to get dumb. Kirby said time travel, what? Agreed. Like, to me, the time travel thing felt really unnecessary, the time platform. Because I'm like, what is he going to do now? Is he going to, like, prevent the Mothervine virus from going out? Like, is he going to go to the past? Is he going to go to the future and try and figure out, like, where these events lead the world? Or, like, what is he going to do? Was he just doing that to escape the current situation? The magnetic woman he was fighting claimed that Magneto was drained. So she claimed that after he did that like big one-shot blast that killed all those other mutants, that like he was like out of power. But I've never understood mutants to work that way. Like I've never heard of like Cyclops doing a really big blast and then being like, I don't have any juice left. You know, like Magneto's not a battery. I don't understand the idea of it like he exerts himself so hard that he can't. Like, maybe it's a more mental thing, and even then, how does she know? Like, does she sense the impulses in his brain? I didn't really get that. Like, I didn't understand where she was coming from, and I definitely don't get the idea of Magneto time traveling to get out of this situation. It's just kind of gross. But again, this is me going over the pros. So, like I said, the first pro was the art when he does the one shot. The second pro is Magneto's great moment where he like puts her in her place, the magnetic girl who thinks she's all that, but Magneto is clearly better than her. I like Mothervine. So this Mothervine virus that's giving all these humans these mutant abilities, it also gives people who already are mutants like boost to their pre-existing abilities or totally new abilities that stack on top of them. And it makes it really interesting for people who are familiar with these X-Men characters. Like, imagine if there's like an X-Men character and you know exactly what they're capable of. You've seen them in like other books, and you know that this character does this and this character does that. And then suddenly they show up and they're like, because of Mothervine, now my powers are just so much better than they were before. Or maybe now they have like a hard handicap. Like maybe they have a new power and they have trouble controlling it when using their other power. They have a mutant like that in this book named Wildside. So Wildside's powers before allowed him to create like illusions, so he could make you see like what he wanted you to see. But those illusions were just that. They were just like things that you see in your environment that don't actually affect you. But what his power became after Mother Vine was essentially like reality manipulation. Like not only can he like make illusions, but he can make them real, where like you actually feel them and they're actually there. And I was like, whoa, like Wildside got like a huge boost from Mother Vine with that new additional ability. The way that the X-Men Blue team end up beating Wildside, however, is that if you knock him unconscious, any of the illusions that he makes real disappear. So they're real as long as he like stays actively making them. But I thought that was really impressive because I like that when Wildside shows up, Magneto's daughter, who's a member of the current X-Men Blue team, because X-Men Blue is kind of divided. The original X-Men Blue team is the original X-Men team from way back in the day, who have been time displaced to the modern day. So the original X-Men team, while they're still young, is in the modern day fighting alongside like modern day heroes, and they make up the X-Men Blue team. They're currently stuck in space with the Venom symbiote. They're on a ship and they're trying to repair it so that they can get back to Earth. So while they're in space, Magneto has like this new X-Men Blue team that he's gathered. And it's like Wolverine's son from the Ultimate Universe, Wolverine's son from this universe, Magneto's daughter, a couple mutants that are like new to me, but are probably like mainstays that I'm just not really aware of. And those are the main ones that come to the top of my head. Because a lot of them, I just feel like they're there. Oh, and Bloodstorm is a member. She's from the Ultimates universe, and she's essentially Storm if she was a vampire, which is pretty cool. But I lost my train of thought. So the way that the X-Men Blue team defeats Wildside, at first when they fight him, they're like, oh, they're just illusions, and they try to like play them off. And then when they get hit by the illusions, they're like, whoa, what the fuck is this? And they have to realize how to beat him now that his powers have changed. And I like little twists like that because it constantly keeps you on your toes. Because if you were just familiar with who Wildside was, you would have just never guessed that he like has that like new ability. You would have just been like them, where you just assumed that he's just making illusions. Kirby said, so Wildside is now Scarecrow. Scarecrow, I think, is more limited, only because Scarecrow is more of like a chemical thing. You know, you get hit with the fear toxin, and then once you get hit with the fear toxin, you may be able to experience the hallucinations like they're real, but they're not actually real. Yo, Poco, welcome to the stream. Spoilers ahead for X-Men Blue issue number 27, so if you don't want spoilers for that, I highly recommend that you read it on readcomiconline.to. After this video is uploaded, a link to this comic will be in the description, where you'll be able to read it online for free if you want, and then check out the video if you want to avoid spoilers. Poco said he's going to buy an Xbox One. He says he's going to do it soon. Okay, cool, Poco. That's great to hear. I hope that you enjoy it. So when it comes to Wildside versus Scarecrow, right, and comparing their powers, also don't forget to smash that like button. Truly appreciate it. Wildside, his power lets him make the illusions where like anybody can see them. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't have to focus on you specifically. Thank you for smashing that like button. Truly appreciate it. To make you see the illusions, he can instead make the illusions just in general where everybody sees them. Thank you kindly, Poco. Appreciate it. And then he can then make those illusions real for everyone as well, where everyone can like feel and be interacted with and harmed by these illusions, because he's just making them a part of reality, which I think is really cool. Until he's knocked unconscious. So I would say that Wildside is greater than Scarecrow. Scarecrow is relying on chemicals, where Wildside is simply using like a power. And his power is essentially just letting him mold reality with his mind in that way. Yo, Ryan, welcome to the stream. It's good to have you. If you don't want spoilers for X-Men Blue issue number 27, then you may want to read the comic before you continue forward in this video. I'm definitely going to put a link to the comic in the description box. so you'll be able to go and read that comic online for free. And then you can come back to this video if you want to avoid spoilers but still want to be involved in the discussion. Ryan said he saw Spider-Man Homecoming. That's great to hear. We can definitely talk about that. You can text me about it, and I can talk to you about it after this video. So, I really like seeing the Mother Vine virus and how it changes up your normal perceptions of mutants. Because at any time, one of the main characters or another character who may not have had powers before or may not have had really good powers can suddenly say, due to Mother Vine, I now can do X, Y, or Z. So that's really cool. Poco said, oh, X-Men. Yeah, this is an X-Men Blue discussion. We're talking about X-Men Blue issue number 27. And like I said, after this video, I'm going to put a link to it in the description below so you can read it online for free, so that you can, after reading it, have more that you can input on what we're talking about in the discussion. So the next pro I have on my pro list is I like Miss Sinister, who is a character that's on the evil mutants team that's trying to mutate everyone using the Mother Vine virus and then control their minds. She's kind of working as like the prompt 2 leader of that group. And what's cool about that is that she's trying to manipulate Emma Frost into like working along with her. Because Emma Frost is only really working with them because Havoc, who's Cyclops' brother, a thing right now. But the more that Miss Sinister keeps pulling bullshit without telling Emma Frost, the more upset she gets. Where Emma's like, I actually don't care about who you are, Miss Sinister. And Miss Sinister and Emma Frost have a similar thing going on to what Magneto and that magnetic chick that he fought earlier in the issue have, where one of them feels superior over the other, but they're not actually as superior as they think. So Miss Sinister tries to like manipulate Emma Frost into going along with her plans, and the more she tries to manipulate her, the more she just makes it worse and makes it where Emma Frost just doesn't want to fuck with her. And if the X-Men didn't attack the evil mutant group when they did, I'm pretty sure Emma Frost would have just fought Miss Sinister right there. It was like, it got really intense. She even, like, Miss Sinister was trying to, like, form a compromise between her and Emma Frost, and she puts her hand on Emma Frost's shoulder. Emma Frost has the ability to, like, kind of turn her body into, like, diamond or whatever, and she grabs Miss Sinister's hand and starts to, like, twist her fingers while telling her that, like, she's tired of being, like, condescended to. And one of Emma Frost's nicknames or aliases is the White Queen, and she's like, I'm about to show you why they call me the Queen. And I was like, ooh, fight, I am ready. So I thought that was really intense. I like seeing those power play moments, and there are definitely quite a few in this issue. Another big thing, this is in the pros section, but it's more like a note, but I guess I feel like it's gonna happen, which is why I put it in the pros. I want the current X-Men Blue team on Earth, the one I described with like Magneto's daughter and Wolverine's son from the other universe and Wolverine's son from this universe and Bloodstorm and all those characters. I want them to be the main X-Men Blue team. I'm really enjoying their story. I like learning more about those characters. And so far in this Mother Vine plot, I've really enjoyed this cast. But I feel like what's going to happen, or what could happen, is that the X-Men Blue team is going to come back from space, and then this temporary team is going to be just that, a temporary team. They're going to leave, and then we're just going to go back to the same old X-Men Blue team, and I kind of don't want that. But there are some hints that we're about to talk about a little bit that will indicate that maybe this current X-Men Blue team on Earth is the one that's going to stay, and the one that's in space is going to, like, fuck off somewhere else. But before we get there, it's time to talk about some cons, because there are definitely some things in this book that I didn't like some things in this book that I was not a fan of. Okay. So, there are two different time travel related scenes in this book. One I talked about earlier, where Magneto, after that like big fight against the brainwashed mutants, goes onto this time platform and disappears, and we don't know where he goes. It's like not explained. But there's an end credit scene at the very end of the book where like it'll say to be continued, but if you keep reading, there are more pages where it shows the X-Men Blue Team. Poco said, "What?" I know, like comics are starting to do like the movies, where like at the end of the comic, it'll say like to be continued or the end. But then if you read past that, there's like a little bit more story that like tells you like what's to come a little bit. Kirby said, "Friggin' Marvel, man." I know, right? So the end credit scene of the book goes like 20 years in the future. And it's the normal X-Men Blue Team, the one that's currently in space, but they're adults, but they're in like the year 2038. So it's like, what if the X-Men team from the past, which is what the X-Men Blue Team is, they're the original X-Men team as teenagers, but they're time displaced in the modern day. Like that's the whole point of the X-Men Blue book, is that they're that team. It's like, what if they never went back to their own time and they just stayed in the present and just rode that out all the way to like 2038, and like what happens? It's like what the story they talk about. Ryan said end credit scene of the book, or is it the end book scene of the credits? There we go. I needed that. So they show the X-Men Blue Team in the future, and they're fighting against these Sentinels, and they're all yelling about how they should have went back to their own time, that if they had just gone back to their own time, none of this would have been happening, and like they wouldn't have lost so much. And then you get to see Beast, who looks really different. Like, you know how Beast is like this big fuzzy like blue guy with like claws? So yeah, fighting Sentinels. And then Ryan said, as usual. Okay, so in X-Men there was this thing where like they had Sentinels that would hunt down and like kill mutants for like the government, but the Sentinels have been like shut down. The current Sentinels in the present of X-Men Blue are actually under the control of the evil mutant team that has been spreading the Mothervine virus across the Earth. And these Sentinels don't want to kill mutants, they want to try and contain the mutants and help them control their new powers, because the Mothervine virus is just turning everybody into mutants. And if you don't teach people how to like control and handle their powers and like calm them down, then a lot of people will just like lose control and they'll end up killing more mutants than they actually make. So these Sentinels, whenever they like show up, try to like calm people down and say like, I'm not trying to hurt you, I'm trying to like take you, kind of thing. But the X-Men have a rule: don't trust Sentinels. They don't fuck with it. So even though the Sentinels are like, we're trying to help you, the X-Men are like, no, please leave us alone. Don't you dare touch any of these mutants. They're just not vibing with it, right? So these Sentinels in the future, however, in the year 2038, they're not having it. Ryan said therapy Sentinels, like pretty much, but they have beams that can help you kind of suppress your powers a little bit. Scavenger said greetings and salutations. Yo, Scavenger. Right now we're discussing X-Men Blue, issue number 27. So if you don't want spoilers, you may want to read that issue first and then jump into the discussion. Once this video has been uploaded, in the description box, I'm going to post a link to where you can read X-Men Blue issue number 27 yourself, so you can get in on the discussion. And then once you get on the, once you've read it, you can probably like pick up on more of the things that we're talking about. So Scavenger said, sorry to be late. No problem, Scavenger. Then he said, oh, X-Men Blue? I've seen several videos on it. Okay, cool. I'm glad that you've seen several videos. I'm down with that. So Kirby said, don't trust Sentinels. And then it's like in quotes, but we want to help you. And it's like, no, with exclamation points. Kirby, that's actually exactly what it's like. Like, the Sentinels will yell things like, apprehend the mutants, don't hurt mutants. Like, the Sentinels are hard programmed to not hurt the X-Men or any other mutants, and just to help them. So the X-Men end up kind of doing more harm than good when they're fighting the Sentinels, but they're like, at any point, some dumb can happen, and they'll just hurt us anyways, and it's not worth it. Ryan said, but we have cookies, from the perspective of like the Sentinels, and then he put help, Like, I see where you're coming from. So the Sentinels in the year 2038, they're just straight up killing mutants. Like, for whatever reason, things are going downhill, and the X-Men essentially were right by being like, don't trust the Sentinels, because now the Sentinels have turned on the mutants once again. So you get to see Beast. Yeah, this is what I was getting into. Ryan said, so like normal Sentinels. Yeah, exactly. Kirby said, have they been betrayed by Sentinels before, which caused this rule? Not as far as I'm aware, because earlier in the X-Men Blue Book, there was another villain who had like made Sentinels. But this villain actually made Sentinels to protect mutants. And he was like, my only mission in life has been to like hunt and kill mutants. And the X-Men are like, well then why did you build these Sentinels to protect mutants? And why would we trust your Sentinels? Because we know that you just want to kill us. And the guy essentially explained, I made these Sentinels so that they could protect all the mutants because the mutant population had like shrunken. There have been multiple events. Like there was like a Terrigen mist cloud that was like killing mutants. And because of this, the mutant population had like dwindled. So the guy essentially was trying to create these mutant reservations so that he could protect the mutants so that their population could grow back up. And then once their population grew, he was going to then let them disperse. And then once they dispersed, he was just going to do like a hunt where he just hunts down all the mutants. So he was like, I'm gonna be a good guy, but just for like a few generations. And then once I get like enough population to hunt again, I'm gonna be back at it. And the X-Men beat his ass. So the X-Men didn't trust Sentinels at that point, and he was right. I mean, and the X-Men were right. Like, they were, like, good not to trust them, because if they did, he would have just, like, hunted them anyways. And then, now it's a similar situation, and they're kind of going by the same code of law. Like, the same idea that, like, we shouldn't trust them, and we're not going to trust them. And since we've seen into the future, thanks to that, like, scene at the end of the book, we know that, like, this is good judgment. It's just a good rule to not trust Sentinels, because normally there's something behind you. Like, behind the situation, behind the scenes, that's just bad. Scavenger said the Sentinels straight tell you ahead of time what's going to happen. Scavenger said, isn't his name Riker? I think the guy from the X-Men Blue comic who, like, made these new Sentinels was a different guy. But I could be wrong. It was really early in the run, and I haven't read it in a long time. So you might be right. I'm not sure. Ryan said, my Sentinels are greater than your Sentinels. Then he said, make mutants pray again. Scavenger said, oh yeah, because the Terrigen Mist from the Inhumans kills them. Yeah, so the Terrigen Mist has a chance of turning normal people into Inhumans or killing them. Whereas for mutants, it just kills them. Like, mutants don't become Inhumans, they just die from Terrigen Mist. And then Scavenger said, and the House of M event killed half the population of mutants. That is another big thing that hit the mutant population and kind of cut it down back in the day. Scavenger said, so Riker follows hunting laws, but for mutants. If it is Riker, then yeah, like, that pretty much is what he was doing. He was, like, trying to balance out the population so that he can hunt again. Ryan says, Sentinels teleport behind you. None personal. Nothing personnel, kid. Scavenger said, I can't remember if it was Riker or not. Neither can I. It's been a long time. That's like one of the first storylines in X-Men Blue. I've noticed after every song there's an ad, so I'm just getting ready for it. Yep, there's an ad. I need more juice. Scavenger said House of M took half of the mutants' powers away, not killed them. Oh, okay. That is also something that's been a long time. Scavenger said, sorry for the wrong info. No problem. Let's see. Ryan said Riker bombards the mutants with the Enterprise's phasers. Star Trek reference. Scavenger said, my bad. No problem, Scavenger. Thank you for the, like, self-fact check. That's really appreciated, actually. I need to get my notes back up because I had to put them down to exit out of the ad. So yeah, I was talking about Beast in the future. So you know how Beast is like this big fuzzy blue guy, with like claws and everything? So Beast, when he first started out, was just a guy who had like big feet. Like that was like his thing. He still was as agile and as strong as the Beast, but over time his mutation evolved and it caused him to change into like the blue fuzzy beast that we know of. Scavenger asked, "Is he now a smooth-skinned red guy?" And then Scavenger said, "In blue scene, they show that the way that Beast develops if he stays in the present and doesn't go back to his time is dramatically different. Instead of turning blue, he gets like white fur and he gets these big antlers on his head. And I don't get it. Like he's like a completely different creature, and I don't get how he would have changed so dramatically to become more of like a weird cryptid looking creature. Kirby said he was just born with monkey feet, and then he made a serum that unfortunately made it worse. Yeah. And then Ryan said antlers. Yes, antlers. It's a really crazy design for him. But Beast has been one of my favorite characters in X-Men Blue from the normal X-Men Blue team that's currently in space. Because when he made it to the modern day, he was like, I'm really smart, but like magic is a thing, so I'm gonna learn magic. So he's like a genius, engineer, chemist. He essentially can do rocket science, and he's like a wizard. So, I mean, it's pretty dope. Ryan said X-Men Blue and Fuzzy. I see what you did there. But, Scavenger said, so he goes from Beast to a jackalope on roids? Kinda. It's like really weird. Kirby said, you're a wizard, Harry. More like you're a wizard, Hank, because his name's Hank. But they show Beast get shot on by a sentinel, and then everybody yells, Hank! Like as if he died, and I was like, no. Hank has literally sent, like, Juggernaut to hell before, using, like, magic powers. And that's, like, in 2018. So, and at that point, he said he was just dabbling in magic. He said he hadn't learned a lot. So if back in 2018 you could send Juggernaut to hell, there's no way a fucking Sentinel one-shots Beast. I was so upset. Ryan said jackrabbit, and then Scavenger said a jackalope is a jackrabbit mixed with an antelope. We got an Arby's ad. Kirby said, yes, that sounds like such bullshit. I agree. I really didn't fuck with that. We are in the cons section, so that is like a big part of it. So based on the X-Men Blue 20 years in the future going, oh no, you know, we should have went back to our time, because if we had, none of this would have happened. It makes it sound like when the X-Men Blue get back to Earth, they're gonna meet their future selves who are gonna go back in time and tell them to go back to their own time, which is really dumb. I feel like the X-Men Blue can't solely blame whatever this weird future is on themselves. And I don't think there's any real reason to think that them staying in the timeline is what causes the problem. Especially if the problem they're fighting is related to the Mothervine incident. Because the X-Men Blue, them, are in fucking space. They have nothing to do with what's happening with Mothervine right now. So I don't think it could be their fault staying in the timeline for it to be like the problem. So I think that's dumb. So that's why it's in my cons list. I think what'll happen is Magneto, I think when he went on the time platform, is gonna arrive in the future, and he's gonna give them the option to follow him back in time to try and fix everything. And they're gonna try and fix everything, I think, by telling their past selves to go back to their time. Which I think isn't a real solution to the problem, but I kind of like it because I think that this concept could be really cool because I like the X-Men Blue team that's on Earth, and that's not the X-Men Blue team that would be going back to their own time. So if that was their reason for them to change the team to the new team I like, more power to them, because I'm down for that. I actually really like it. I'd like it if Beast stayed, though. I really like Beast on the, like, X-Men Blue team that's in space. So if he could say, hey guys, I'd rather stay here. I'd prefer to be a weird jackalope guy. More, please. Please, I would love it. Ryan said jackalopes have, like, antler cancer. I imagine Ryan just Googled jackalopes. Ooh. So, as mentioned before, going down the cons list, there are multiple Wolverine sons on the X-Men Blue Earth team. There's one that's Wolverine's son with a Japanese woman from, oh, Ryan said he already heard about jackalopes in Tierzoo's video. Yeah, Tierzoo did a video on cryptids. If you're not familiar with Tierzoo, think of it as like a zoologist who compares animals to like RPG like stats and fighting game mechanics. So it's really cool. Kirby asked, is X-23 a thing here? So X-23 is, I believe, in X-Men Red, not in X-Men Blue. And don't worry, I'm gonna also read X-Men Red and do a discussion video on that. Excuse me. Scavenger said, Dokken is the Japanese one. We got another ad. And Scavenger said Tierzoo is awesome. Tierzoo is awesome. Definitely support him. Dokken is the one that's from the 616 universe. And like I said, he was Wolverine and like a Japanese woman. He uses swords. I believe his claws are like two and they're separated. And I think they come out the bottom part of his arms rather than the top. I might be wrong. But one of my complaints about Dokken is it seems like he doesn't use his fucking claws. He has the swords, and it seems like he only uses those, rather than using the swords and his claws. And I don't get it. Like, did something happen in the comics that I missed where he doesn't use his claws? He talks about his other mutant abilities. Let's see, Scavenger said he has two in the fist and one in the wrist. Okay, so it's like this, then. That makes sense. Why does he not use them? Like, did something happen to them? I only ever see him use the swords. And he claims that he still has all his other powers, because he's talked about using his pheromones before and stuff like that. Which is weird, because that's something I don't even hear Wolverine say. Like, using weird pheromone manipulation stuff. But he's on the team. And then, of course, there's Hudson, who's Wolverine's son from the Ultimate Marvel Universe. And they have this weird thing where Dokken will sometimes try to do something that's a little brotherly. Like, hey, we're both like sons of Wolverine. And Hudson will be like, your dad's not my dad's from another universe. He has like this weird thing about it. Let's see. Scavenger said his claws are coated to where it gets rid of healing factors. So Dokken's claws sound like they're really good. So why doesn't he use them? Why does he use the swords instead? Like, throughout the comic, there are a lot of cool panels where he's shown using his swords. But then, because he doesn't, like, use his... Okay. Scavenger said because he won't heal. Oh, because the claws take out healing factors. That's not just for people that he, like, cuts, like other people. That's also for himself. So it's, like, damaging for him to use his claws. That makes sense. I see where you're coming from. Kirby said, carbonadium coating. That's new. That's not something I've heard of before. Scavenger said, yes, he can shift his pheromones. Bobby said, you talking about Wallflower with the pheromone powers? I'm talking about, I can't remember his name. Scavenger, like, literally just said it. Dokken, one of Wolverine's sons. Also, beware, spoilers ahead for X-Men Blue number 27. If you don't want spoilers, when this video is uploaded, I'll put a link in the description to the comic where you're able to read it. And then once you read it, you'll be able to come back and understand more from the discussion. Scavenger said his swords also get rid of healing factor. Ooh, that's cool. Kirby said carbonadium is an alloy that neutralizes healing factors. Okay. I think I might have heard about that from the Deadpool Deathstroke death battle that happened. Kirby said, and it's how Deadpool was able to kill Wolverine with a sword made of it. I think that happened in Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe, because I did read that one. I read that whole Deadpool Kills graphic novel series. It's at my local library, actually. Scavenger said, Carbonadium is the name. Thanks, Kirby. He said I needed a refresher. Yeah, thank you, Kirby. I do appreciate the, like, research terms. I dig that. Kirby said, thank you, Screw Attack. True, yeah, because I learned about it from Screw Attack, from the Deathstroke Deadpool death battle. But I'd forgotten the name as well. Scavenger said, lol. So that helped explain that con. So I guess that's not really a real con. The reason why 616 Wolverine isn't using his claws is because it would just actually, like, hurt him to use his claws. And his swords kind of do the same thing, but with better range anyways. So they're just better. My next con is, why aren't the bad guys just overwhelming the X-Men with more Mothervine mutants? I mean, they've turned a good percentage of the world's population into mutants by now, right? By letting out the Mothervine virus. So if you control, like, a good percentage of the world, why don't you send most of them to fuck up the X-Men instead of sending the Sentinels? Because the Sentinels are just confused. They're just like, oh, we must apprehend them, but we must not hurt them, but we must defend ourselves, but we must not hurt them. And the X-Men can kind of just cut through them. Like, they're just nothing, because they can't really do anything to protect themselves. Then the X-Men have, like, arrived. Like, the X-Men blue team that's on Earth are now, like, face to face with the bad guys. And the bad guys are fighting them directly. Why? Why fight them directly? If I control the world, they should just all come down and just beat that ass, and we get away, and we just plan for another day. Scavenger said, because they stupid and plot, and that pretty much is the reason. Yeah, Scavenger said, because plot. Yeah, a lot of these stories, they end up boiling down to, the villain has to be stupid, because if not, we don't have a story, which I don't really agree with, because if your villains are smart and your heroes are smart, you just get, like, really interesting interactions, where each team keeps playing trump cards, and as they continue playing these trump cards, people have to learn how to adapt and just be better in order to succeed and survive. And I feel like that's how it works in a lot of these situations, if they take it from, like, a more realistic angle. Scavenger said Doc Ock is one of the greatest because of that. You are not wrong, dude. I've been digging so deep into the Spider-Man guidebook. I'm actually halfway through now. Scavenger said, and so is most goblins. Green Goblin's too crazy. The more I read about him, the more incompetent he actually seems. Scavenger said most. He's really good at just throwing people at Spider-Man. And he's really good at, like, messing with Spider-Man mentally, but I don't feel like he leaves enough of a lasting impact. Kraven actually seems like one of the best Spider-Man villains, and if Kraven didn't just kill himself, I feel like he would have just killed Spider-Man. In the story Kraven's Last Hunt, he buries Spider-Man alive for some reason, instead of just killing him like a hunter normally would. And then Kraven's like, finally, I caught my last prey. And then he kills himself. And I'm like, what? That's so dumb. Kraven, you've proven that you can easily defeat Spider-Man. Why do that? Scavenger said Green Goblin in Ultimate Spider-Man is awesome. I really liked him in the Ultimate Spider-Man video game. I never have actually read the Ultimate Spider-Man comics, but I've only heard good things about them. I want to read the part of Ultimate Spider-Man where he's living with Iceman and Human Torch. I think that's really cool. Scavenger said Kraven is awesome, most def. Now that we've gone through pros and cons, I always like to go over notes. So these are notes that I've written. One of my notes is the story arc is very similar to the Amazovirus story arc that DC did for the New 52 Justice League. So the Amazovirus story was, oh no, there's this virus that's like spreading across the earth. And because of the virus, people are getting these superpowers. But oh no, there's this guy called Patient Zero, and he can control people who have the Amazovirus. And it's like, this feels very familiar. Like, as I'm reading this X-Men Blue storyline, and as I read Marvel Comics, more and more of them seem to be like, oh, this is just like this other thing. I read Avengers #1 recently, and I was like, oh, this is a lot like Dark Knight's Metal. I read Marvel Legacy recently, and I'm like, oh, it just seems like DC Rebirth. And now I open up X-Men Blue, and I'm like, oh, this just seems like Amazovirus. Scavenger said, this seems like a lot of stories. Kirby said, actually kind of sounds like DC Universe Online with the exobytes. I know, right? It's weird. My next note, Kirby said, just without the mind control. True. My next note is that Bloodstorm and Wildside seem extremely powerful. Scavenger said, yeah, Kirby. At one point in the book, Bloodstorm grabs one of the evil mutants and just looks them in the eye and then, like, takes control of them. Because she has, like, vampire powers, so she can just kind of compel people to do stuff. And earlier in the book, they knocked out Wildside. If in the next issue, they revealed that the X-Men aren't actually fighting the evil mutants, and it's just illusions created by Wildside, I would really vibe with that. Because if Bloodstorm can just like take over people's minds, then all they have to do is wake up Wildside. Bloodstorm takes over Wildside, and now Bloodstorm has access to Wildside's reality manipulating powers because she can just tell him to do whatever she wants him to do. Scavenger said Bloodstorm is OP if used correctly. Agreed. So I would really like to see some kind of twist like that happening. That'd be really cool. My next note is Alex a double agent? So as mentioned before, Alex aka Havoc seems to be having this thing with Emma Frost, and he's a member of this evil group of mutants who have been spreading the Mothervine virus and are trying to take over all the mutants and turn everyone into mutants. The thing about him though is that apparently him and Polaris, who's Magneto's daughter, real quick, we're gonna have an ad, I imagine. Yep, so I'm gonna wait for a few seconds to where I can skip the ad and then I'll jump right back in. There we go. So Polaris, Magneto's daughter, and Havoc seem to have this thing going on, but Polaris is a member of the X-Men Blue Earth team, and Havoc is working for the evil villains, and Havoc and Emma Frost have a thing going on. So Polaris tries to like plead with Havoc, and Havoc goes, no, I'm not gonna get with you, and I've moved on, and I'm not the person you think I am, and I'm evil, like he does that kind of thing. There's even a flashback earlier in the book where Magneto and Polaris are talking, and Magneto's like, I need you to get through to Havoc. He's not the same person he used to be, blah, 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 blah. And I'm curious if Magneto and Havoc have like a plan going on, in that like Magneto said that to Polaris so that Polaris would think that like Havoc is like actually on the other side. But maybe Magneto, when he hit the time platform, maybe he went back in time and he's been planning this with Alex the whole time, and Alex has just been a double agent working on the inside. I know that's a crazy conspiracy theory, but I wouldn't be surprised with this kind of book. Scavenger said, real spy shit from every comic and movie. Also, Havoc is being emo. He says, it's not a phase, Havoc. But I think the Alex thing is really weird, and I'm interested in seeing where that will go. Especially since Emma Frost seems to only really be holding on to the villain side because Havoc keeps like pushing her to stay, because she seems to kind of care for Havoc. So I don't know. Because if Havoc reveals that he's a double agent, Emma's gonna flip a hard script. Best believe. So I don't know how to feel about that. And my last note I already referred to, kind of with the whole Beast getting one shot thing. They show him getting hit with the beam, and everyone just screams like Hank, and they act as if like he's dead, but we don't get to see a body. Show me a body. Did future Hank actually die? He better not have been one shot. That's stupid. Scavenger said that or Havoc is just too devoted to Emma's body. I mean, I'm not saying that Emma's not attractive, but your boy needs to stick to his morals, is all I'm saying. Scavenger said, if you know what I'm saying. But those are all my pros, cons, and notes on X-Men Blue. And I'm totally down to discuss all these topics in more detail, but we can do that in the comment section below. So if you've liked this video, make sure to like this video, favorite, comment, subscribe, and ding ding ding, ring that bell so you're notified whenever we do these live streams. Scavenger says, seems lit, most definitely. So yeah, once I upload this video, because right now it's just streaming and then afterwards it uploads, I'm going to edit the description so that in the description box below, you'll be able to click on a link that will send you to this comic online for free. Or, of course, you can go to your local comic book store and support them and buy a copy, or you can buy one online. There are plenty of options, but I just want to give you a free option in case you're trying to get into comics for the first time, or you just want to jump into this story and see what I've been talking about. That way, after you read the story, we can discuss it further in the comment section below, because you have more insights on what happens in the story and a better understanding. Let's see. Scavenger said, wrong. Thank you for ringing that notification.